Alright, so these are notes over how to find the circumference of a circle. So unlike area, circumference is just the outside. So if you imagine taking a rope and trying to make a circle with your piece of rope, the length of that rope is your circumference. Okay, so we are doing this without a calculator. My paper looks a little bit different than yours because your stuff's all marked out nice and neat. We are leaving this in terms of pi. So what that means is that you do not use pi in your calculations. Like you're not going to multiply by 3.14. You're just going to leave pi in your answer. All right, so here we go. The formula for circumference is 2 pi r. So all we need is the radius. Once I know the radius, I can just plug it in. We're just going to times it by 2, and that's it. So here is the first one. We have my diameter is 9 inches, so diameter is equal to 9 inches. So what that means is that my radius, if I divide 9 by 2, is going to be 4.5 inches. So to find the circumference, we're going to do 2 times pi times my radius, which is 4.5 inches. And my circumference will be 2 times 4.5 was 9, so 9 pi inches. So what I'm going to put here is 9 pi inches. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Okay, so the second one, my radius is 7 centimeters. So my formula is circumference is equal to 2 pi r. And yes, you write this down every single time. In geometry, you have to show a lot of your work. So circumference is equal to 2 times pi. My radius is 7 centimeters. So when I multiply this out, 2 times 7 is 14. So I have 14 pi centimeters. And so that's what I'm putting in my blank here, 14 pi centimeters. And so that's what it means by leaving it in terms of pi. We're not multiplying anything by 3.14. You're not using a calculator to multiply by pi. You just leave it there in your answer. Okay, third one. So my radius is, my diameter is 25 meters. Okay, so my radius, you cut this in half. And so what this means is you do 25 divided by 2. And if you're not sure how to do this, okay, this is why we did our division, we're going to go ahead and just divide. 2 goes into 2 one time, so 1 times 2 is 2. Bring down my remainder of 5. 2 times 2 goes in, 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. And since I have a remainder of 1, I'm going to put my decimal 0, bring that down. 2, and I'm going to put my decimal here. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10, and that gives me a remainder of 0. So my radius here is 12.5 meters. So circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So I'm going to plug in my radius. So 2 times pi, 2 pi times 12.5 meters. And 12.5 times 2 is 25. So my circumference is 25 pi meters. And that's what I'm going to put here, 25 pi meters. All right. Last one on this first row. So circumference, before I do circumference, I need my radius. Radius is equal to 56 centimeters. Okay, so remember that's this piece up here. Tells you it's 56 centimeters. Circumference is equal to 2 times pi times r. I know my radius, so I'm plugging in 2 times pi times 56 centimeters. Okay, so if you need to over to the side, 56 times 2. 2 times 6 is 12, carry your 1. 5 times 2 is 10, 10 plus 1 is 11. So it's 112 pi centimeters. So my answer here will be 112 pi centimeters. Okay. All right. So we have 4 more like this. All right. So for this one, it's my diameter is 35 inches. So let me write that down. Oops, there we go. So my radius, again, if you don't know how to split 35 in half, you can divide it by 2. 2 goes in 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. There's 1, 5. 2 goes into 15 7 times. 7 times 2 is 14. Subtract, I have a 1. Add your decimal with a 0. Add the decimal up here, bring the 0 down. 2 goes into 10 5 times, so 5 times 2 is 10. When I subtract that, I have a remainder of 0. So 17.5 inches is my radius. Circumference is equal to 2 pi r. I know my radius, so circumference is equal to 2 times pi times 17.5 inches. And then when I multiply that by 2, when I multiply that by 2, that's going to give me 35. So pi inches. So my circumference is 35 pi inches. All right, next one. So my radius here is 7.5 inches. So radius is 7.5 inches. Circumference is 2 pi r. Plug in my radius, so 2 pi times 7.5 inches. Okay, so if you're not sure what 7.5 times 2 is, you can either add 7.5 plus 7.5, and then, or you can multiply it. So I'm going to go ahead and 7.5 plus 7.5, 5.5 and 0.5 is 1, 7 plus 7 is 14. Add that extra 1, that will give you 15. So circumference is equal to 15 pi inches. Okay, so for this one, circumference is equal to, or sorry, before I do my circumference, I have my diameter. Diameter is 5.9 feet. So I need to figure out my radius is. So I'm going to do 5.9 divided by 2. 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. That's 1. There's my decimal. I'm going to bring down the 9. 2 goes into 19 8 times. Or not 8 times, 9 times. Because 9 times 2 is 18. So that gives me a remainder of 1 when I subtract. So I'm going to add my 0 and bring that down. And 2 goes into 10 5 times. So 5 times 2 is 10. And when I subtract that, then I have a remainder of 0. So my radius is 2.95 feet. So I'm going to plug this into my circumference. So circumference is 2 pi times my radius is 2.95 feet. And 2.95 times 2, that just gives me my 5.9 pi feet. So I'm going to write that down here. All right, and again, you can always pause this, rewind it, whatever you need to do. Okay, last one on this part. So my radius is 4.8 yards. Formula for circumference is 2 pi r. I have my radius, I'm going to plug that in. So I have 2 pi times 4.8 yards. So if you need to, you can go over here off to the side. 4.8 times 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry your 1. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. You have 1 decimal place. So there's a decimal between my 9 and 6. So circumference is going to be equal to 9.6 pi yards. So 9.6 pi yards. Okay, and that's it for the first part. And then the second part, probably do about 4 of these and then be done. Okay, so for this one, circumference is going to equal, that's what's supposed to go here in this little blank. So I'm going to do my work below it. So we have circumference is equal to 2 pi r. I know my radius is 35 yards. I'll label it up here. So when I plug this in, circumference is equal to 2 pi times my radius, which is 35 yards. And over here I'll do my work. 35 times 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So circumference will be equal to 70 pi yards. All right, second one. So my diameter here is 93 meters. So I'm going to find my radius by dividing this by 2. 2 goes into 9 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract that, bring down my 3. 2 goes into 13 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. Subtract that, there's my 1. I'm going to put my decimal 0. Bring my 0 down. Don't forget the decimal at the top. 2 goes into 10 times. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. I'm going to subtract that. That gives me my remainder of 0. So my radius is going to be 46.5 meters. Circumference is 2 pi r. So circumference is going to be 2 pi times my radius, which is 46.5 meters. And I already know 46.5 times 2 will give me 93. So 93 pi meters. Alright, we'll do 2 more and then be done. Okay, so for this one, I know my diameter is 8 feet, so my radius, you cut that in half, is 4 feet. Circumference is 2 pi r. So circumference is 2 pi times 4 feet. 2 times 4 is 8, so 8 pi feet. 8 pi feet. Alright, and last one. Circumference, so 62 miles, that is my radius, so my radius is 62 miles. Circumference is 2 pi r. So circumference is 2 pi times 62 miles. So circumference is equal to, I'm going to do 62 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 6 is 12. So 124 pi miles is my circumference. And that's it. So I'm not going to do these last 4 because hopefully by now you got the hang of it. You do have to show your work. So just like the notes, every single one of them better have circumference is equal to 2 pi r. You better have your radius and or your diameter labeled, and then you need to show plugging it in and your final answer. And that's all that you have to do.